I don't pay for black mechanics to touch my aircraft. I pay for professionals. San Francisco Bay Area, SkyTech Aviation Private Runway, 7 a.m. Preston Bradford III, billionaire tech CEO, 4.2 billion net worth, stood beside his $65 million Gulfstream G650, minutes from takeoff. Jordan Reynolds, the only black woman mechanic in the 129-person facility, found a critical engine fault. The compressor was failing. The jet would explode. Preston grabbed her tablet, called her a diversity hire, ordered her removed from his aircraft. He started takeoff anyway. 30 seconds later, boom! The compressor exploded on the runway. Black smoke everywhere. Emergency sirens. Preston stumbled out, shaking, barely escaped death. Jordan Reynolds had just saved a billionaire's life, the same man who publicly humiliated her moments before. When everyone saw the explosion, when they realized Jordan's warning could have prevented it, Jordan didn't just accept an apology. What she did next left Preston Bradford speechless in front of 50 witnesses. Keep watching. Let's rewind. 6 hours earlier, Jordan Reynolds woke up at 5:30 a.m. in her small Oakland apartment. Same routine as always. Black coffee, work boots, navy blue coveralls with her name embroidered on the chest. She'd been at SkyTech Aviation for 6 months, the only black woman in a facility of 129 employees. Most days, she felt invisible. Other days, she felt like everyone was watching. Today would be different. She just didn't know it yet. SkyTech Aviation sat on the edge of Silicon Valley Executive Airport. Private jets only. Billionaires, tech CEOs, venture capitalists. The kind of people who spent more on a single flight than most families earned in a year. The company specialized in maintenance for the ultra-wealthy. Gulfstreams, Bombardiers, Citation X jets. If it cost over $20 million, SkyTech touched it. Jordan had come from commercial aviation, Boeing, United Airlines maintenance crews. She'd spent 12 years climbing the ladder. MIT degree in aerospace engineering, published thesis on turbofan efficiency. None of it mattered when promotion time came around. White men with half her qualifications moved up. She stayed in analysis, doing the work, getting none of the credit. So she left. Thought private aviation might be different. Thought hands-on work would speak for itself. She was wrong. At SkyTech, she got the grunt work. Pre-flight inspections, basic maintenance, oil changes, and tire pressure checks. Meanwhile, white mechanics with less experience handled the complex repairs. The system rebuilds, the engine overhauls. Her supervisor, Brian Hendricks, made it clear from day one. "We have standards here, Reynolds. Don't mess up." Standards. That word carried weight. It meant, don't make us regret hiring you. Don't prove the doubters right. Be twice as good for half the recognition. Jordan parked her Toyota at 6:15 a.m. The sun was just breaking over the East Bay Hills. The facility was already buzzing. 3 jets scheduled for departure before noon. She clocked in, grabbed her tablet and toolkit. Brian was waiting in the hangar. Reynolds. He didn't look up from his clipboard. Bradford's G650 pre-flight inspection. He's wheels up at 8 sharp. Jordan nodded. Preston Bradford III. She knew the name, everyone did. Tech billionaire, 3 unicorn companies, net worth in the billions, regular SkyTech client, also known for being difficult, demanding, intolerant of anything less than perfection. "Standard inspection?" Jordan asked. Brian finally looked at her. "Yes, Reynolds. Standard. Can you handle that?" She bit back her response. "Yes, sir." The Gulfstream G650 sat on the tarmac like a sculpture. Sleek white fuselage, swept wings, twin Rolls-Royce engines, $65 million of engineering. Jordan approached the starboard engine, opened her diagnostic tablet, began the checklist. Fuel systems, check. Hydraulics, check. Electrical, check. Then she got to the engines. The BR-725 turbofans, 22,000 pounds of thrust each, the heart of the aircraft. She connected her tablet to the engine diagnostic port, ran the sensor sweep. Standard protocol. The numbers came back. Everything looked normal. Within tolerance, green across the board, except. Jordan frowned, zoomed in on the N1 compressor readings, the fan blade rotation sensor, vibration amplitude 0.003 millimeters, technically within the acceptable range of 0.005. But something felt wrong. She cross-referenced with the temperature sensors. Ambient air, 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Forecast for cruise altitude, 68 degrees, a 16-degree variance. Then she checked the maintenance history. Last turbine inspection 14 months ago. Blade wear noted at 0.4 millimeters, within the 0.5 tolerance limit. Jordan did the math in her head. Turbofan blade degradation wasn't linear, it was exponential, especially in titanium alloy blades under thermal stress. At 0.4 millimeters 14 months ago, the blade was at 80% of tolerance. Following exponential degradation with a power curve exponent of 2.3, projecting forward 4 months past the scheduled inspection, the current wear should be approximately 0.46 millimeters, 92% of tolerance, and with a full passenger load climbing to 45,000 feet, thermal expansion on a blade with existing microfractures. Jordan's stomach dropped. She ran the calculation again, double-checked her numbers. Same result. This engine had a 78% probability of catastrophic failure under stress conditions, most likely between 28,000 and 32,000 feet, right in the middle of the climb to cruise altitude. She photographed the diagnostic screen, logged the readings. I checked the flight plan on the system. Preston Bradford's destination, New York. Flight path, over the Rocky Mountains. Cruise altitude, 45,000 feet. If that compressor failed at altitude over mountains, the results would be catastrophic. Engine disintegration, asymmetric thrust, hydraulic failure, survival rate for high-altitude compressor failure in twin-engine jets, 11%. Jordan looked around the tarmac. Other mechanics were finishing their inspections, giving thumbs-up signals, clearing aircraft for departure. She pulled out her phone. Checked the time. 7:05 a.m. Preston Bradford would arrive any minute. She had to tell someone. Jordan walked quickly back to the hangar. Found Brian Hendricks reviewing paperwork. "Brian, I need to show you something." He didn't look up. "I'm busy, Reynolds. It's the Bradford jet, the starboard engine. I'm seeing anomalies in the compressor blade sensors." Now he looked up, annoyed. "Anomalies? The readings are within tolerance. I checked them myself 2 days ago. Barely within tolerance, and when you factor in thermal expansion at cruise altitude with the current blade wear progression, Reynolds." Brian's voice went cold. "Are you questioning my inspection?" "I'm saying the numbers suggest the numbers are within spec. That's what matters. We follow the manual, not hunches." Jordan held up her tablet. "Look at the vibration amplitude. Then look at the blade wear from the last inspection. If you project the degradation curve, I don't have time for this." Brian signed a form, handed it to another mechanic. "Bradford's aircraft is cleared for departure. If you're not comfortable with standard procedures, maybe this isn't the right job for you." The words hit like a slap. Jordan felt her face flush. Other mechanics were listening now, watching. "I'm just trying to—" "You're trying to show off," Brian said quietly. "Trying to prove you're the smartest person in the room. That's not how we work here. We're a team. We trust each other's inspections." He walked away, left Jordan standing there, holding her tablet with evidence nobody wanted to see. She went back to the jet, rechecked her readings. Same numbers, same risk. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe Brian was right and she was just trying to prove something. But the numbers didn't lie. Engines didn't lie. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Charles Reynolds, dead 2 years now, former automotive engineer at GM, the man who'd raised her alone after her mother died. "If you know you're right, stand in it." Jordan heard the cars arriving, looked up. 3 black limousines pulling onto the tarmac. Preston Bradford had arrived. He stepped out of the lead vehicle. Tall, mid-50s, expensive suit, confident walk. The walk of a man who'd never been told no. Behind him came his executive assistant, Natalie Brooks. Then his pilot, Captain Stephen Morris. Then 3 more passengers, business associates probably, all dressed like they were heading to a board meeting. Preston walked straight toward his jet, saw Jordan standing at the engine. His face changed, not quite disgust, more like inconvenience. "Captain Morris," he called out. "I thought I requested experienced personnel for this morning." Jordan felt every eye turn toward her. The other mechanics, the pilots, the ground crew. Captain Morris jogged over. "Sir, Miss Reynolds is one of our certified—" "Where's Brian?" Preston cut him off. "Where's someone who actually knows these aircraft?" Jordan stepped forward. Professional, calm. Mr. Bradford, I'm certified for G650 maintenance. I've completed your pre-flight inspection, but I need to show you. Preston held up his hand. Didn't let her finish. Let me be very clear. I don't have time for on-the-job training. I have a meeting in New York that's worth $800 million. I need someone qualified. I am qualified, sir. MIT Aerospace Engineering, 12 years experience, but your starboard engine... MIT? Preston's eyebrow raised. Really? And yet here you are, doing pre-flight checks? The condescension dripped from every word. Jordan felt her hands tighten on the tablet. Brian Hendricks appeared. Thank God. He'd fix this. Mr. Bradford. Brian extended his hand. Everything's cleared for departure, sir. All systems nominal. Preston shook his hand. Warm, familiar. Brian, good to see you. I assume you personally verified the inspection? Yes, sir. I've reviewed all the diagnostics. You're good to go. Jordan couldn't stay quiet. Brian, I showed you the compressor readings. Reynolds, I've got this. Brian's tone was a warning. Don't embarrass me in front of the client. Preston turned to Jordan, really looked at her for the first time, and she saw it in his eyes. That calculation, that assessment. Black woman, grease-stained overalls, cheap work boots, trying too hard to be heard. He'd already decided she didn't belong. Young lady, Preston said slowly, I'm sure you're very enthusiastic, but enthusiasm doesn't replace experience. Captain Morris, let's board. We're already running behind. Jordan took a step forward. Mr. Bradford, please, there's an anomaly in the N1 compressor. If you take off with those readings... Preston turned back, his patience exhausted. Do you know how many times I've flown in this aircraft? Hundreds. Do you know how many mechanics have cleared it? Dozens. All of them more experienced than you. He moved closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Close enough that his voice was almost a whisper. I don't pay for black mechanics to touch my aircraft. I pay for professionals. He said it, out loud, deliberately. Jordan felt the words like a physical blow. The other mechanics stopped moving. Captain Morris looked away. Natalie Brooks smirked. Preston walked toward the jet stairs. Brian, I want her removed from my account, permanently. No diversity hires on my aircraft going forward. Is that clear? Crystal clear, Mr. Bradford. Preston climbed the stairs, disappeared into the cabin. His passengers followed. Brian grabbed Jordan's tablet. Didn't look at her. Just took it. Logged the final clearance himself. Gave the thumbs up to Captain Morris. The engine started to spool up. That distinctive whine of the BR 725 turbofans building power. Jordan stood there, alone, while 6 mechanics busied themselves with other tasks, while the jet she'd just flagged as unsafe began to taxi. She pulled out her phone, took photos of the engine, documented everything. If this went wrong, she'd need proof. Proof she'd tried. Proof they'd ignored her. The Gulfstream turned onto the runway. Captain Morris ran through his pre-takeoff checklist. Preston Bradford sat in his leather seat, probably reviewing documents for his $800 million meeting. Jordan watched from the tarmac, helpless, angry, afraid. The jet began its takeoff roll, accelerating, faster, 40 knots, 60 knots, 80 knots, and then, if you've ever had to choose between keeping quiet and speaking truth to power, drop a comment below. Because what happens in the next 60 seconds is going to change everything. Hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. To understand what happened next, you need to understand who Jordan Reynolds really was. Detroit, Michigan, 1990. Jordan was born into a family of engineers. Her father, Charles Reynolds, worked at General Motors. Automotive design, engine systems, the kind of work that required precision, patience, and an unwavering respect for physics. Her mother, Angela, was a nurse. She died when Jordan was 8, breast cancer, sudden, devastating. After that, it was just Jordan and her dad. Charles raised his daughter in the shop. While other kids played with dolls, Jordan played with socket wrenches. While other families had dinner table conversations, the Reynolds family had workbench discussions about torque ratios and combustion efficiency. Jordan rebuilt her first carburetor at 12. Her father watched, barely offering guidance. Just let her figure it out. When she got stuck, he wouldn't give her the answer. He'd ask questions. What's the fuel-to-air ratio supposed to be? Why does the float valve matter? If the mixture's too rich, what happens? Jordan learned to think like an engineer before she learned algebra. At 15, she diagnosed a transmission problem that had stumped her father's entire team at GM. A subtle issue with the valve body that was causing intermittent shifting problems. She found it by listening, by paying attention to patterns others dismissed as noise. Her father was proud, but he was also realistic. "You're smarter than most people I work with," he told her one night in the garage. "You're going to be better than me someday, but baby, you need to understand something. You're going to have to be twice as good to get half the credit." Jordan didn't understand then. She was 15. She thought talent was enough. "Why?" she asked. Charles wiped his hands on a rag, looked at his daughter. "Because you're black, and you're a woman, and the world's going to make assumptions about you before you ever open your mouth. So when you do open your mouth, make damn sure you're right." Jordan got a full scholarship to MIT, aerospace engineering. She was one of 3 black students in her program. One of 8 women in a class of 90. She excelled. Top of her class in propulsion systems. Her thesis on turbofan efficiency optimization got published in a major engineering journal. Professors called her brilliant. Recruiters circled. Boeing hired her straight out of school. Engine analysis division. Dream job. Jordan thought she'd made it. For the first year, everything was exciting. She was solving real problems, contributing to aircraft that carried millions of passengers, making aviation safer. Then she started noticing patterns. Her analyses were solid, her recommendations were sound, but credit went elsewhere. Her white male colleagues presented her work in meetings, got promotions, got raises. Jordan kept her head down, worked harder, published more, took on extra projects. Surely excellence would speak for itself. After 8 years at Boeing, she was still in the same position. Analysts with half her experience were managing teams. Her own teams, technically. She'd train them, mentor them, do their work when they struggled, then watch them get promoted over her. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Jordan had spent 6 months developing a new diagnostic protocol for engine blade inspection. Comprehensive, revolutionary. It could save millions in maintenance costs and prevent failures. Her supervisor, a white man named Richard, presented it to senior leadership. Put his name on it. Got a $20,000 bonus and a promotion to senior engineer. Jordan asked why her name wasn't on the presentation. "You're part of the team," Richard said. "We all contributed." She left Boeing 3 months later, moved to commercial aviation maintenance, United Airlines. Thought hands-on work would be different. Thought demonstrating competence with her hands would matter more than navigating office politics. It was different. It was also the same. The best assignments went to the guys. The complex repairs, the interesting problems. Jordan got routine maintenance. She was good at it, great at it, but she wasn't challenged. Her father got sick around that time. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months from diagnosis to death. Jordan took leave, spent every day with him. In those final weeks, they talked about everything. Life, regret, pride. "Did I do the right thing?" Jordan asked one afternoon. "Leaving Boeing? Starting over?" Charles was thin by then, weak, but his eyes were still sharp. "You stood in your truth. That's always right. But I'm not where I should be. I'm better than this." "You are better than this," her father agreed. "But the world's going to try to make you small, every single day. You can't control that. What you can control is whether you let it work." He paused, took a labored breath. "Competence speaks louder than comfort. Remember that. People choose comfort over truth every time. They'll trust someone who looks right over someone who is right. But engines, physics, math, they don't care about comfort. They only care about truth." Jordan held his hand. "So what do I do?" "You keep being excellent. You keep being right. And when they tell you you're wrong, when they dismiss you, ignore you, humiliate you, you stand in it anyway. Because eventually, reality catches up. And when it does, they'll have to face what they refuse to see." Charles Reynolds died 2 days later. His last words to Jordan: "Don't let them make you small." Jordan moved to private aviation 6 months after her father's funeral. SkyTech Aviation. Fresh start, new environment. Maybe this time would be different. It wasn't. But standing on that tarmac, watching Preston Bradford's jet accelerate down the runway, Jordan heard her father's voice. "Competence speaks louder than comfort. The numbers were clear. The engine was failing, and she'd tried everything to stop it. Now all she could do was watch. The Gulfstream G650 hit 80 knots, 90, 100. Captain Morris was approaching V1. Decision speed, the point of no return. After V1, you're committed to takeoff, no matter what. Jordan watched from beside the hangar, her heart pounding. The starboard engine screaming as it spooled to full power. She saw it before she heard it. A shudder, slight, almost imperceptible. The kind of vibration only someone looking for it would notice. Then the sound. Not an explosion, not yet. A change in pitch. The engine's whine went higher, sharper, wrong. Captain Morris noticed too. Jordan saw him glance at his instruments, saw his hand move toward the throttle. Then it happened. Bang! The compressor stalled. Stage 3 blade failure, catastrophic, instantaneous. Black smoke poured from the starboard engine. The jet lurched right. Asymmetric thrust. Captain Morris slammed the brakes. Full reverse thrust on the port engine. The jet decelerated hard, rubber screaming. Smoke from both the engine and the tires now. Emergency alarms blared across the airport. Fire trucks roared to life. Ambulances activated. The Gulfstream stopped 1,200 feet from the runway's end. Emergency evacuation slide deployed. Preston Bradford stumbled out first, face white. His assistant followed. Then the other passengers. Captain Morris was last, helping evacuate, professional even in crisis. Foam trucks surrounded the smoking engine. Crews doused it in suppressant. Protocol for engine fire on the ground. Jordan stood frozen. She'd been right. She'd known. And nobody had listened. She should feel vindicated. Instead, she felt sick. Within minutes, the tarmac filled with people, mechanics, ground crew, pilots, management, other clients who'd been waiting for departures, and Preston Bradford storming toward the hangar like a hurricane. Who signed off on that aircraft? His voice carried across the entire facility. Rage and terror mixed together. He'd just survived what could have been a fatal crash. Brian Hendricks appeared, clipboard in hand. Jordan saw him scan the document, saw his face pale. "Sir, the pre-flight inspection was completed by..." He looked up, found Jordan standing near the hangar, Reynolds. Every head turned. 30 people, 40, 50, all looking at Jordan. Preston's eyes locked onto her. Recognition, then fury. "You?" He marched toward her. "You cleared that aircraft? You?" Jordan stepped forward, tried to keep her voice steady. "Mr. Bradford, I tried to warn you. I found the compressor anomaly during inspection. I reported it to my supervisor." "You cleared it!" Preston was shouting now, full volume. "You signed off. You could have killed me, killed everyone on that plane." "I didn't clear it, sir. I flagged the issue. Mr. Hendricks overrode..." Preston wasn't listening. "This is your fault. Your incompetence almost murdered 8 people." Jordan felt the accusation like a physical weight. The crowd pressed closer, watching, judging. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked uncertain. Gerald Foster arrived, Director of Operations. Skytech's number 2. "Mr. Bradford, please, let's discuss this inside." "I want her fired." Preston pointed at Jordan. "Immediately. No severance, no reference. And I want everyone here to know that Skytech's diversity initiative almost killed me." The words hung in the air. Diversity initiative. Said like it was dirty. Like Jordan was here because of charity, not competence. Brian Hendricks held up the inspection log. "Sir, according to the paperwork, Reynolds completed the inspection and gave the all clear. I countersigned based on her report." "That's not true," Jordan interrupted. "I showed you the diagnostic readings. I specifically told you the compressor had..." "Reynolds, I don't know what you think you saw," Brian said carefully. "But the readings were within tolerance. You cleared the aircraft. I verified your work." He was lying, covering himself, rewriting history in real time. Jordan pulled out her phone. "I have photos. Timestamps. The diagnostic readings I showed you." "Enough!" Gerald Foster held up his hands. "This is not the time or place. Mr. Bradford, I assure you, we'll conduct a full investigation." "Investigation?" Preston's laugh was bitter. "I can tell you right now what happened. You hired someone unqualified. You let political correctness override safety. And I almost died because of it." He turned to the crowd, making sure everyone heard. "I've been a client here for 6 years, never had a single issue. Then Skytech decides to diversify and suddenly my jet explodes on the runway? That's not coincidence." Jordan wanted to scream, wanted to show everyone her tablet, her photos, the evidence, but who would believe her? A black woman with 6 months at the company versus Brian Hendricks, senior mechanic with 15 years of perfect service, versus Preston Bradford, billionaire client. She was about to be scapegoated, fired, blacklisted, and there was nothing she could do about it. Then she heard the car, a black Mercedes, vintage, immaculate, pulling up to the edge of the tarmac. An older man stepped out. 70 maybe, distinguished, gray hair, dark suit, military bearing. He moved slowly but deliberately, the kind of presence that makes people quiet down. Jordan didn't recognize him, but clearly others did. Brian straightened. Gerald Foster looked nervous. The man approached the smoking engine, surveyed it from a distance, then turned toward the crowd. "Before everyone starts assigning blame," he said, voice carrying easily despite not shouting, "has anyone actually examined the failure point?" Preston Bradford stepped forward. "And you are?" The man extended his hand. "Colonel William Carter, retired Air Force propulsion engineer, currently senior technical consultant for the FAA. I was scheduled for a routine facility inspection this morning. Seems I arrived at an interesting time." Colonel William Carter. The name meant something. Jordan saw recognition ripple through the mechanics. The FAA's unofficial final word on engine failures. The man who'd investigated over 200 aircraft incidents. If there was someone in private aviation who everyone trusted, it was Colonel Carter. Preston shook his hand, some of his bluster fading. "Colonel, thank God. Someone competent. I demand a full investigation into how this woman's negligence—" Carter held up a hand, polite but firm. "Mr. Bradford, I've investigated hundreds of incidents. I've learned never to start with conclusions. I start with evidence." He looked around the crowd, found Jordan. "You're the mechanic who performed the pre-flight inspection?" Jordan's throat was dry. "Yes, sir. And your name?" "Jordan Reynolds, sir." "Miss Reynolds, did you document your inspection?" This was it, the moment. Jordan pulled out her tablet, hands shaking slightly. "Yes, sir. I found irregularities in the N1 compressor sensor readings. I reported them to my supervisor. I have photos, timestamps." Carter nodded once. "Show me." Colonel Carter took Jordan's tablet. The crowd pressed closer. 50 people watching in silence. He studied the screen for a full minute, zooming in, checking timestamps, cross-referencing data. His face gave nothing away. Preston Bradford stood with his arms crossed, confident this would prove Jordan's incompetence. Brian Hendricks looked increasingly uncomfortable. Finally, Carter spoke. "These readings?" He looked at Jordan. "When did you take these?" 6:52 a.m., sir. Approximately 15 minutes before engine start." Carter turned the tablet to show the crowd. "The N1 compressor sensor shows vibration amplitude of 0.003 millimeters, within acceptable range by manual standards." Preston relaxed, vindicated. "See? She cleared faulty. I wasn't finished, Mr. Bradford." Carter's voice had steel in it. "Within acceptable range, yes, but Miss Reynolds didn't just record the vibration. She cross-referenced it with thermal differential data and blade wear progression." He looked at Jordan. "Walk me through your analysis." Jordan took a breath. This was her moment. Mess this up and she was done. Get it right and maybe someone would finally listen. "The ambient temperature was 52 degrees Fahrenheit," she began. "The forecast showed it would reach 68 degrees by cruise altitude stabilization. A 16-degree variance. I cross-checked with the maintenance logs. Last turbine inspection was 14 months ago. Blade wear noted at 0.4 millimeters. Technically within the 0.5 millimeter tolerance." Carter nodded. "Go on." "But turbofan blade degradation isn't linear. It's exponential, especially in titanium alloy under thermal stress. At 0.4 millimeters, the blade was at 80% of tolerance, following exponential degradation with a power curve exponent of approximately 2.3. Jordan pulled up her calculations. "Projecting forward from the last inspection, current wear should be approximately 0.46 millimeters. 92% of tolerance, combined with full passenger load, climbed to 45,000 feet, and thermal expansion." She met Carter's eyes. "The thermal expansion rate on a blade with existing microfractures would exceed structural tolerance at approximately 38 minutes into flight, most likely failure point between 28 and 32,000 feet. during transition to cruise climb power. The tarmac was silent. Jordan could hear her own heartbeat. Carter studied her face. Where did you learn this analysis methodology? MIT, sir. My thesis was on turbofan efficiency optimization through predictive blade wear modeling. Something shifted in Carter's expression. Respect, maybe. This is graduate-level materials science. Most mechanics wouldn't catch this correlation. He turned to the crowd. By the manual, Miss Reynolds' readings were acceptable, but regulations require mechanics to apply professional judgment beyond checklist compliance. Miss Reynolds identified a pattern that indicated high probability of failure under operational stress. Carter looked at Brian. You're the supervising mechanic. You saw these readings? Brian shifted. The numbers were within spec. We follow the manual. The manual provides minimum standards, Carter said. Professional judgment exists for a reason. Progressive deterioration requires experienced analysis. Preston Bradford was no longer smiling. But the engine failed on the ground, so there was no actual danger. Carter's expression hardened. Mr. Bradford, you fundamentally misunderstand what happened here. Revelation 2, the pattern. Carter pulled out his own tablet. May I see the aircraft's maintenance history? Gerald Foster rushed to comply. Within minutes, Carter had the full 14-month log displayed on a portable workstation. He scrolled through, stopped, scrolled more. His jaw tightened. Miss Reynolds, you noticed a pattern in these logs. Explain what you found. Jordan hesitated. She'd be directly implicating Brian, but she'd come this far. 14 months ago, turbine blade inspection, minor wear noted within limits. 9 months ago, compressor efficiency test, acceptable performance, no action required. 4 months ago, routine inspection, all systems nominal. She highlighted the entries. Notice the intervals, 5 months, but the last inspection was 4 months ago. This aircraft was due for another inspection 3 weeks from now. Carter nodded. Who performed these inspections? Gerald Foster checked the records. His face went pale. All signed by Brian Hendricks. Carter turned to Brian. In each case, marginal readings that should have triggered deeper investigation were simply noted and cleared. Explain your reasoning. Brian's confidence cracked. The numbers were all within specification. I followed protocol. You followed the minimum. Carter's voice was cold now. This is precisely why the FAA emphasizes judgment over checklists. This blade wear has been progressing for over a year. Each inspection showed degradation trending toward failure, and each time you cleared it because technically it met minimums. Jordan spoke up, emboldened. If you look at the blade wear from 14 months ago, 0.4 millimeters, that's 80% of tolerance, but blade degradation accelerates. It's not linear. She pulled up her graph. The predictive curve she'd calculated. Exponential degradation for titanium alloy under these operating conditions follows a power curve. My sensor readings this morning showed vibration patterns consistent with 0.45 to 0.46 millimeters actual wear. Carter studied the graph, looked at Jordan with something approaching admiration. You calculated this curve yourself? Yes, sir. Based on published data on BR 725 turbofan blade fatigue under operational stress. Carter turned to the crowd, made sure everyone was listening. What Miss Reynolds did this morning is exactly what aviation safety requires. She didn't just follow a checklist. She analyzed trends. She applied materials science. She made a professional judgment call based on evidence. He looked directly at Preston. And she was ignored, dismissed, and humiliated because her analysis challenged assumptions. Revelation 3. The life-saving insight. Carter pulled up his tablet, loaded a simulation program. Mr. Bradford, you said the engine failed on the ground, so there was no danger. Let me show you what Miss Reynolds actually prevented. He input the G650's parameters, weight, altitude profile, the specific compressor failure mode based on the visible damage. The simulation ran, showed the flight path Preston's jet would have taken. Your flight plan had you climbing to 45,000 feet over the Rocky Mountains. Based on this blade's condition and Miss Reynolds' analysis, the failure would have occurred at approximately 30,000 feet. The simulation showed it. The engine failure, the disintegration, the cascade of systems failures. A catastrophic compressor failure at that altitude, at Mach 0.78, with the aircraft in climb configuration. Carter paused. The engine doesn't just shut down. It disintegrates. Turbine blades become shrapnel. They damage hydraulic lines, fuel lines, control systems. The simulation showed the aircraft entering an uncontrollable yaw, then a spiral. Carter's voice was steady but grim. In 43 documented cases of high-altitude compressor disintegration on twin-engine jets, the survival rate is 11%. 5 survivors out of 43 incidents. He let that number hang in the air. Miss Reynolds' diagnostic precision didn't just prevent an engine failure. It prevented a mass casualty incident over a mountain range, 280 miles from the nearest suitable airport. Carter turned to Captain Morris. Captain, you've flown this aircraft for 6 years. In your professional opinion, could you have recovered from compressor disintegration at flight level 300 in climb configuration? Captain Morris's voice was quiet. No, sir, not with the damage profile you described. Carter looked at Preston Bradford, really looked at him. You had 8 people on that aircraft. Your executive assistant, your pilot, co-pilot, 2 flight attendants, 3 passengers. Miss Reynolds saved all of them. Preston stood very still, processing. The color had drained from his face. Carter continued, voice harder now. This morning, a highly qualified engineer identified a life-threatening defect. She attempted to communicate that defect through proper channels. She was dismissed, ignored, and humiliated. He gestured to the crowd. Not because her analysis was wrong, not because her methodology was flawed, but because people couldn't see past their assumptions about who she was. Carter looked directly at Preston. You told her she learned about jets from YouTube. That woman has more aerospace expertise in her smallest finger than most people accumulate in a lifetime. MIT degree, published researcher, 12 years experience. And you dismissed her in 30 seconds because she didn't look like what you expected an expert to look like. The tarmac was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Carter turned to Gerald Foster. I'm issuing immediate ground orders for 3 additional aircraft in your fleet. Miss Reynolds identified a systemic issue with Mr. Hendrix's inspection protocol. Every aircraft he's cleared in the past 18 months needs full turbine inspection before next flight. He looked at Brian. Your inspection authority is suspended pending FAA review. You'll be notified of the hearing date. Brian's face went red, then white. His career was over. Carter extended his hand to Jordan. Outstanding work, Miss Reynolds. Textbook safety analysis. Your methodology should be taught. Jordan shook his hand, felt tears threatening but held them back. Then something unexpected happened. Someone in the crowd started clapping, a younger mechanic, then another, then more. The applause spread, not everyone, but enough. The people who understood what had just happened, who saw Jordan's competence finally, undeniably recognized. Preston Bradford stood in the center of it all, speechless, his entire worldview cracking. If this story is giving you chills, hit that subscribe button right now, because the justice that came next, when Jordan finally got to speak her mind, it was even more satisfying. But first, let's see exactly what that engine failure revealed. Colonel Carter wasn't finished. I need that engine open for inspection, now. Within 30 minutes, maintenance crews had removed the starboard engine cowling. The compressor section lay exposed. Stage 3 blades visible under the harsh California sun. Carter pulled on inspection gloves, used a borescope camera. The images displayed on a portable screen for everyone to see. There, blade number 8, catastrophically fractured. The break was clean, sudden, complete. But that wasn't what made the crowd murmur. Blades number 9 and 10, adjacent to the failure point, showed clear fatigue cracks, visible even to untrained eyes. Beach marks on the fracture surface, each one representing a cycle of stress. Progressive failure over hundreds of flights. Carter photographed everything, called over a neutral maintenance technician from another crew. Measure blade number 9, wear depth. The technician used a precision caliper, read the measurement twice. 0.46 millimeters, sir. Exactly what Jordan had predicted. Carter examined the fracture pattern under magnification. Classic high-cycle fatigue failure. Progressive cracking over months. You can count the beach marks. I see approximately 600 to 680 stress cycles of progressive growth. He pulled up the aircraft's flight logs on his tablet. Cross-referenced. This aircraft has flown 682 cycles since the last turbine inspection 14 months ago. The math was perfect. The evidence undeniable. Jordan's analysis hadn't just been correct. It had been forensically precise. Carter straightened, addressed the assembled crowd. In 40 years of aviation safety investigation, I've seen this pattern repeatedly. Competent warnings dismissed because they came from unexpected sources. And every single time, the fundamentals get forgotten. He paused. We don't evaluate aircraft safety based on who raises the concern. We evaluate it based on the evidence. Miss Reynolds provided textbook diagnostic analysis. Her methodology was sound. Her calculations were precise. Her professional judgment was exactly what regulations require. Carter pulled out his phone, made a call. This is Colonel Carter. I need to file a formal incident report with the FAA. Aircraft registration number. He read off the G650's tail number. Catastrophic engine failure prevented by pre-flight inspection. I'll have the full documentation within the hour. He hung up, looked at Gerald Foster. SkyTech will face regulatory review. I'm also recommending a full audit of Mr. Hendrix's inspection history for the past 18 months. Then Carter did something Jordan didn't expect. He pulled up Brian's inspection records on the facility computer, started going through them methodically. Other aircraft, other clients, 15 inspections over 18 months. A pattern emerged quickly. Brian consistently cleared aircraft to minimum specifications. Never recommended proactive maintenance. Never flagged marginal readings for deeper investigation. 3 aircraft showed concerning patterns, similar to Preston's jet. Blade wear trending toward failure. Temperature anomalies. Vibration patterns at the edge of tolerance. These 3 aircraft, Carter pointed to the records, ground them immediately. Full turbine inspections before next flight. Gerald Foster looked sick. Colonel, those are active client aircraft. Then your clients will wait. Carter's tone left no room for argument. Would you prefer they wait on the ground or crash at altitude? He turned to the full crowd. Made sure every mechanic, every pilot, every manager was listening. This is why professional judgment matters. This is why we can't just follow checklists. Aviation is a science, yes, but it's also an art. The art of seeing patterns, of trusting your analysis even when others doubt, of having the courage to stand in your expertise. Carter looked at Preston Bradford. Mr. Bradford, I'll be filing a formal incident report with the FAA. It will note that catastrophic failure was prevented by diligent pre-flight analysis performed by the assigned mechanic. It will also note that proper safety protocols were initially ignored due to, he chose his words carefully, interpersonal dynamics that have no place in aviation safety. Preston's face was unreadable. Shame, anger, fear, all mixed together. Carter continued. The FAA takes these matters very seriously. SkyTech will face review. Your aircraft will be grounded pending repairs. But Mr. Bradford, 8 people are alive right now because one mechanic refused to ignore what she knew was true. Silence across the tarmac. 50 people processing what they'd just witnessed. The complete vindication of Jordan Reynolds. The exposure of systemic negligence. The undeniable proof. Carter extended his hand to Jordan again. This time it felt different. Not just professional courtesy. Genuine respect. Miss Reynolds, I'd like your permission to use this case as a training example for FAA certification programs. Your diagnostic methodology should be taught to every aviation mechanic in the country. Jordan's voice was steady despite the emotion. Of course, Colonel. He pulled out a business card, handed it to her. I consult on turbofan safety protocols. I'd like to bring you in as a technical advisor. $250 an hour, if you're interested. Jordan took the card. Couldn't quite believe this was happening. The crowd had gone quiet again, but this time it was different. This time people were looking at Jordan Reynolds with respect, with recognition, with understanding of who she actually was. Someone started clapping again, then another person, then more. This time the applause was louder, longer, genuine. Jordan stood there, vindicated, exhausted, and finally seen. Gerald Foster stepped forward, in front of the entire crowd, 50 people watching. Miss Reynolds, his voice carried across the tarmac. On behalf of SkyTech Aviation, I want to apologize. We failed you today, failed our safety protocols, failed our obligations. He extended his hand. I'd like to offer you the position of Director of Safety Operations. Effective immediately. Salary of $135,000 plus performance bonuses. Full authority over all pre-flight inspections and maintenance protocols. The crowd murmured. That was a huge position. Senior leadership. Real power. Jordan looked at his hand, didn't take it. The murmuring stopped. This wasn't the script. You don't refuse an apology in front of everyone. You don't turn down a major promotion publicly. But Jordan had something to say first. Mr. Foster, I appreciate the offer. Her voice was calm, clear. But before I accept anything, I need to understand something. She turned, faced Preston Bradford directly, everyone watching. Mr. Bradford, you called me incompetent this morning. You said I learned about jets from YouTube. You tried to have me fired, and you did all of that before you knew anything about my qualifications, my education, or my track record. Preston opened his mouth. Jordan held up her hand. I'm not asking for an apology right now. I'm asking a question. She paused. What exactly made you assume I was unqualified? Silence. Complete silence. Preston shifted, uncomfortable. Miss Reynolds, I made a hasty judgment. Before you answer, let me tell you what I observed this morning. Jordan addressed the crowd now, not just Preston. When Mr. Hendricks, a white man, told you the aircraft was safe, none of you questioned him, but when I, a black woman, said there was a problem, I was immediately dismissed. She pointed to a pilot in the crowd. You told me to stay in my lane. Pointed to another mechanic. You laughed when Mr. Bradford called me incompetent. Back to Preston. And you, Mr. Bradford, you looked at my overalls, looked at my face, and decided I couldn't possibly know what I was talking about. Jordan took a step closer. So I'll ask again. What made you assume I was unqualified? Because it wasn't my work. You hadn't seen my work. It wasn't my analysis. You hadn't heard my analysis. So what was it? Preston Bradford stood there, mouth slightly open, no words coming out. He knew the answer. Everyone knew the answer. But saying it out loud would mean admitting conscious bias, admitting prejudice, admitting he'd nearly died because he couldn't see past skin color. I don't... He literally couldn't speak. Left speechless by a question he couldn't honestly answer without indicting himself. Jordan maintained eye contact. Here's what happens next. Mr. Foster, I'll accept your offer, but with conditions. She listed them clearly, deliberately. 1. Full authority to implement new safety protocols across all aircraft, no exceptions. 2. Personal veto power over any mechanic's work regardless of seniority. 3. Direct reporting to the CEO, not through operations. 4. SkyTech institutes mandatory unconscious bias training. All employees, no exceptions. 5. Mr. Bradford, your aircraft, I'm the only mechanic who touches it from now on. You will personally sign off on my work before every flight, and every time you sign, you'll remember this moment. Gerald Foster looked stunned. Miss Reynolds, those are substantial demands. They're non-negotiable. Jordan's voice was steel. You want the best safety record in private aviation? You need me. But you need me on terms that ensure this never happens to anyone else. Colonel Carter, standing to the side, had the hint of a smile. I believe the lady has made her position clear. All eyes turned to Preston Bradford, the billionaire who controlled millions in contracts, the man who could destroy SkyTech with one phone call. He tried to speak, stopped, tried again. You're right. His voice was barely above a whisper. About all of it. The crowd leaned in. Nobody expected this. Preston gained strength, still humbled but finding his footing. Miss Reynolds, I judged you based on assumptions that have no place in aviation, or anywhere else. He struggled with the next words. I looked at you and saw what I expected to see, not what was actually there. A highly qualified engineer, someone who saved my life. The crowd was completely silent. This was not the Preston Bradford they knew. Your terms are fair, more than fair. I accept them, all of them. He pulled out his phone right there, called his assistant. Natalie, draft an agreement. Miss Jordan Reynolds has full mechanical authority over my aircraft. I sign off on every inspection she performs. Make it legally binding. Hung up. Looked at Gerald Foster. Whatever she's asking for, salary, authority, conditions, give it to her. Consider it a requirement of keeping my business. Then Preston did something unexpected. Extended his hand to Jordan, not as charity, as an equal. Thank you for your professionalism and for not giving up when everyone told you to. They shook hands. Someone photographed the moment. That photo would be everywhere by tomorrow. Gerald Foster moved quickly, empowered by Preston's acceptance. Mr. Hendricks, you're terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you off premises. Your FAA certification suspension will be processed by end of week. Brian's face went through stages, red, white, gray. His career was over. 15 years, gone. Was it harsh? Maybe. But Brian had consistently chosen convenience over safety, had dismissed concerns from junior mechanics, had created a culture where following minimums mattered more than preventing disasters. Within 24 hours, Gerald Foster announced company-wide changes. Jordan Reynolds, Director of Safety Operations, direct report to CEO, full authority over all maintenance protocols, new policy. All safety concerns escalated immediately. Source doesn't matter, evidence does. Mandatory bias training, every employee starting next week. Third-party audit of every aircraft Brian Hendricks had cleared in the past 18 months. That afternoon, Preston returned, asked to speak with Jordan privately. In her new office, yes, she had an office now, he sat across from her. "I need you to understand something," Preston said. "This morning I didn't just disrespect you. I endangered 8 lives because I couldn't see past my own prejudices." He pulled out his checkbook. "I'm establishing a $2 million scholarship fund for underrepresented minorities in aerospace engineering. It'll be named after you, the Jordan Reynolds Aerospace Scholarship. But I want you to control it. You choose the recipients." Jordan was surprised. "Mr. Bradford, I didn't ask." "I know. That's why I'm offering. You stood up there and demanded systemic change, not personal compensation. That's leadership." The story went viral. Someone had recorded Jordan's confrontation. 12 million views in 48 hours. #Jordan Reynolds trending. Aviation publications ran features. TEDx invited her to speak. 3 major companies offered jobs at $150,000 plus. The FAA cited the incident in new safety culture training, used it as a case study in organizational dynamics affecting safety reporting. Congress invited Jordan to testify about diversity in aviation maintenance. 48 private aviation companies nationwide adopted Jordan's diagnostic methodology. SkyTech faced a $128,000 fine from the FAA. Required third-party audits for 24 months. But their safety record became the best in the industry. Client retention, 98%. Jordan Reynolds became the face of aviation safety, not despite being a black woman, but because her expertise, her methodology, her courage had been undeniable. 6 months later, Preston Bradford's Gulfstream G650 sits on the tarmac. Jordan Reynolds performs the pre-flight inspection, as she has every single time for 6 months. Preston arrives, watches her work. Every visit he reviews her findings personally. Every visit he signs. Today he asks, "Miss Reynolds, do you ever wonder if that confrontation was too harsh?" Jordan closes the engine, cowling, wipes her hands. "Mr. Bradford, you asked me what made you assume I was unqualified. You still haven't answered that question out loud?" Preston pauses. "Fear, I think. Fear that everything I believed about merit might be built on invisible advantages I never acknowledged." Jordan nods. "That's the first honest thing you've said to me. Keep going with that." She hands him the clipboard. He signs, not because he has to, because he knows she's the best. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't prove you're right. It's make someone face why they assumed you were wrong. If you've ever had to stand your ground like Jordan did, drop A in the comments and tell your story. Hit subscribe, because next week we're covering another expert who was underestimated and what happened when they proved everyone wrong. And here's a question. Go back and rewatch the moment at exactly 3 minutes 15 seconds. There's a detail about Jordan's analysis that only the sharpest viewers will catch. Did you notice it? Comment below. Remember, the question isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether others are brave enough to face why they doubted you. What moment made you speechless?